My favorite part of the NBA calendar is here, Summer League, yay! It's a time of great optimism as everyone is reveling in the new toys they have, be it a big trade acquisition or a blockbuster free agent signing or that hot new draft pick. That's right. Summer really belongs to that guy because that's the guy we've never seen before in an NBA setting, and that's the guy we get to see on the floor right now. Over the years, the Las Vegas Summer League has grown immensely in popularity because of the anticipation of seeing the future stars of the NBA go at it. Who could forget 2014's Andrew Wiggins versus Jabari Parker, a game that packed Cox Pavilion? It's also a place where we see diamonds in the rough announce themselves, like in 2010 when a relative unknown named Jeremy Lin went toe-to-toe with the #1 overall pick, John Wall. But regardless of where a player is drafted, a strong word of caution for everyone who wants to be whisked away by a strong showing or distraught by a tough summer. It's only Summer League. It's time for experimentation. It's a time not just for players, but also by coaches, many of whom are calling the shots as head coaches for the first time in their careers. And while you might get excited by a Josh Selby averaging 25 points per game on 56% shooting and like 64% by three, by the way, that has no bearing on his NBA career. He didn't have much of one. And before you kick yourself that Draymond Green averaged 10 points a game on 30% shooting, remember that he did that playing a role that, at the time, he wasn't able to do with the real Golden State Warriors. But he could try in Vegas. And that role was basically the role he grew into today as a perennial all-star and all-NBA player. And by the way, Golden State wasn't just a champ this year. They were also Summer League champs the year he averaged 10 points a game. So when you're frustrated watching a first-round pick on your favorite team average, 11 points per game on 39% shooting, don't fret. He might end up getting traded for a guy who's getting traded for a guy whose bird rights gets renounced so that you can reacquire that former first-round pick by presenting a $71 million offer sheet. Dave, that's called a Jack Sikma right there. A little pivot action.
Yeah, I like it.
Knicks offers $71 million, 4 years, trade kicker, player option, pretty much everything except the max deal for Tim Hardaway Jr. How surprised were you by that?
Shocked, I guess, because they had him, of course, part of the franchise before. They trade him to get the number 19 pick they used on Jerian Grant. Grant only sticks around a year, and now he comes back. And I think I was trying to think of a similar circumstance that we've seen. I had to go outside sports. This is Steve Jobs getting fired by Apple, coming back years later with more power, more money, more clout. And that's what we're seeing out of Tim Hardaway right now. It's no offense to what he is as a player. Once the Hawks got rid of Kyle Korver last year, he averaged close to 18 points per game, right around 40% shooting from three. He's athletic. He was in the dunk contest. That we forget about that. And shooting is a premium in today's NBA, but I don't know if everybody's in for that money.
It's weird. The first thing that everyone brought up was he's making more on this contract than his father, who probably should be a Hall of Famer, had made in his entire career. And it's not like his father played in the 50s. Tim Hardaway Sr. played at a time where big contracts were starting to come about. Remember, he played with Alonzo Mourning and made $105 million on his Miami Heat
He had a signature Nike shoe.
He had a signature Nike shoe. He had the UTEP two-step. Everyone was doing that little crossover. And so for Tim Hardaway Jr. to make this much money just on this deal, I think it took people's breath away, especially because we thought this year, now sanity has prevailed, right? Like,
the cap came down from the projections.
Yeah, everyone's like, look, that was madness of last year from the big jump. Now this is reality. Teams are going to be more frugal again. And so for the Knicks to do that, I mean, I don't necessarily know why. I just don't understand what was the thirst for that particular guy.
It seemed like Atlanta at least put it out there that that was their priority to try to retain him. So I guess you need to get up to a certain number to make it happen. But we have seen some of these similar contracts around the league the last couple of years. Most of them haven't worked out though. In this range, Crabbe, you'd say is overpaid. Biyombo, what's he doing for Orlando? Deng obviously has been an albatross for the Lakers. Same thing with Noah. Now Bazemore, that's the one guy on that list. You're like, okay, that might be fair market value, and he's younger and ascending, right? And so maybe that's the length. Tim Hardaway Jr. is only 25 years old.
He's only 25 years old. Great shooter, defensively. And for me, that's the difference between him and Bazemore. Bazemore is a guy that is an improving offensive player, but defensively he's there. I think Tim Hardaway is a good offensive player, but the other side, not much improvement. Welcome back to The Jump. It's time for us to examine the state of the land. Yes, Clevelanders, we're talking all things Cavs with the man who knows all things Cavs, Mr. Dave McMenamin here. What's going on, Dave?
Let's talk it.
Let's do it. Up first this offseason. The Cavs gotten worse?
I think by virtue of the age of their roster, every day that passes, they are getting worse because they haven't upgraded with any sort of two-way player, any playmaker, any youth. And the guy they've had is Jose Calderon, nice player, 36 years old. The guy they've been talking to, according to Joe Varden of Cleveland.com, is Jamal Crawford.
Right.
Nice player, 37 years old. Now, I'll give Crawford some credit. In the playoffs last year against Utah, he had 4 games of 10 points or more.
He's a young 37.
The Cavs bench combined in the NBA Finals, 0 games of 10 points or more of any individual. So he would be an upgrade just based on what they have right now.
Right.
But that's not going to bridge the gap between them and the Warriors.
Glass half full, the entire East got worse other than Boston.
Right.
So you can say, they've status quo. Glass half empty, obviously, they're not here to win the East. They're here to win it all. And so that's a tough pill to swallow. The other thing also is this general manager position thing. I mean, I don't know how many ways you can mess up a championship team, a championship caliber team, but this has to be one of them where you're just wasting time here. Do we know of any other candidates, for instance?
We certainly do not. What I've been told, speaking to people around the team, is that the last couple weeks have been almost on-job training or in an active interview for guys like Kobe Altman and Mike Gansey, and they're doing an exemplary job of not licking their wounds and recognizing the chaos that's going on, just putting their head down and trying to get deals done. But they're put in a tough position, and basically what I've been able to glean is that guys on the Cavs, LeBron James included, feel like they went into the offseason with no plan.
Right.
If you're going to get rid of David Griffin, that's one thing. It's questionable,
right,
but it's one thing. But you got to make sure you get your guy as a replacement. They didn't, and now they are rudderless, and quite frankly, are a bit embarrassing the way their offseason's gone.
It's not easy, if you're in an interim role and your job is to deliver a championship now before LeBron leaves. I mean, it's just hard to kind of navigate those waters. All right, next question. Will anyone from the Banana Boat join? We've taken upon ourselves to highlight Carmelo Anthony here. He's expressed interest in Cleveland and Houston. CP3 and D-Wade seem to be locked into their respective situations for at least one more year in Houston and Chicago. Dave, what do you think? Is there room for Melo in the land?
I mean, yes, if they could add him to the big three.
Right.
If there was a buyout, but I've talked to people around the league, and they feel like there was a $24 million buyout for Phil Jackson, which allowed James Dolan to avoid a $54 million buyout for Carmelo Anthony. So if it's a trade route, it's going to be Houston or the Cavs. Adrian Wojnarowski reported those are the 2 teams he would waive his no-trade clause for. We don't know which one would be more likely to happen in New York until they get their new president / GM. So say that guy is David Griffin, and even David Griffin has a tremendous relationship with Kevin Love.
Right.
If I'm that guy taking over the job, I want a full rebuild because that buys me more time.
Right.
If I'm starting from the ground floor, you get a 5 or 6 year window to be the GM of the team. But if you're starting midway through the process and all of a sudden you're a playoff team with Porzingis and Love potentially, and then the fans' expectations change, it's a harder job to do.
The whole thing here is if you got Carmelo Anthony instead of Kevin Love, I don't know how much better that makes him. Again, I think every question we ask about the Cavs has to go back, will this help beat the Warriors?
Right.
No? Okay. Because you're still dealing with someone who's a defensive liability that they will exploit and take advantage of. I mean, is he better defender than Kevin Love? If he is, just marginally so, right?
Right. So, and Kevin Love he did not have the best NBA Finals. The way he hit the offensive rebounds, particularly in Game 3, the Cavs lost that game, but he kept them in that third quarter, hitting the offensive glass. I don't know if Melo brings that little extra to the game.
It's almost like overkill on the stuff they already have. Yeah. All right, question number 3. Is Dan Gilbert daring LeBron to leave? That ring ceremony seems like so long ago. LeBron has another year on his deal, then can leave Cleveland again if he wants to. Doesn't seem like Gilbert is worried about it, Dave, but it kind of feels like he's kind of saying, go ahead and do it.
That would be a little sinister, right, to suggest that there's something beneath the surface where he's trying to push LeBron out the door. Perhaps, though, if he was to, let's say he doesn't want to offer LeBron the supermax of $209 million.
Right.
He can just try to sabotage in the meantime, and then LeBron leaves, and I didn't have to make that decision.
Right.
I don't really know if that's what's going on here. I think this could just be ineptitude.
Right.
And ineptitude looks bad. It looks so bad that makes you wonder, is this intentional?
See, I don't think it's daring him to leave like, I want you out. I think it's the other kind of daring him to leave. Like, you're not going anywhere. What do you mean? Come on. You know you're here for life now. Okay, you can cut the theatrics. I feel like he's got that kind of confidence. When people say, hey, man, what are you doing? This is, you're going to lose the guy. Like, nah, he's not leaving. He's not going anywhere. He's home.
Right, which I think would be a severe miscalculation.
Oh, wow.
LeBron sets up his contracts to give himself options.
Pretty much.
And he's going to have options in the summer of 2018. There's teams that have already, earmarked cap space to be able to make a run at him. And if all he's seen in the final 12 months of his tenure with the franchise is chaos, is embarrassment, is no sense of a plan, because again, that's what I have been told that kind of LeBron's camp views this offseason thus far, he would be better served over the final part of his career to leave. But that's a but. There's still, the next season to try to get back on track.
Bonus question before we go to break. If he left, I'm not saying he's leaving, but let's say he left. You have to put your money on going to the West or staying in the East. Which one will he do?
Going to the West.
Really?
I think he would come to Los Angeles to play for the Lakers.
Oh, man.
But, I mean, perhaps that team in the East, maybe the Knicks all of a sudden emerge as a contender. I mean, it's not absurd to think. And, of course, we know the imbalance.
All I hear, what's that? 9 million voices all screaming at the same time in New York. Let it be.